Mayor Tony Williams, Mayor Sharon Pratt, and Prince George's County Executive Angela also Brooks. A lot of fans here. Of course, my editor, I think it was Don Graham from the told me, my publisher, or former publisher, the county executives in Prince George's and Montgomery are mayors of larger jurisdictions than the mayor of the district, actually. We should treat them as such. I'm not sure the paper's really lived up to that, but that's what we were told. So I basically want to talk about the same issues we just talked about with the business leaders. That is sort of the state of the district and regional economy. And I'm particularly interested in those two imbalances. Mayor Bowser has said, inclusive growth is basically the centerpiece of her strategy for the district, both in the first term and in the second, with a special emphasis on affordable housing. Basically having growth, having continued economic growth, but making it inclusive and making sure that we're not leaving people behind. This is what the goal is. And just, how are we doing on that, and what do we need to do to do it better? And I think a very similar issue going on also for Prince George's. And of course, Mayor Williams and Mayor Pratt have experience dealing with this in the past. And I'm just warning you right now at the beginning that at the end, I'm asking you about an issue that has affected each of you directly, and that is the Redskins' next stadium. Okay, so just be warned. I'm going to ask about that at the end. Because each of them play direct roles in the Redskins Stadium issues. But let's start with Mayor Bowser. Tell us how do you think things are going, and how would you address these imbalances that I talked about?
Well, thank you for having me. Thanks for having us, and I want to thank you.
Can everybody hear?
Yeah.
No.
Thank you. So I want to thank you, President Mason, and all the UDC Firebirds for having us today, and acknowledge our students, our mayors, our county executives, and all of you on what is a very important topic for us. We are in DC very bullish on our city, county, state, and school district. And know that a lot of the policies and practices that we have put in place over the last several years have allowed us to grow as a jurisdiction, to attract residents and businesses, and to manage ourselves exceptionally well. $15.5 billion budget, 24 straight balanced budgets. And we continue to outperform even our own expectations. Just this week, we announced that in this fiscal year, we're going to alone have $80 million more dollars coming in than what we expected. So my challenge in my first term now is to make sure that more Washingtonians are participating in that growth and prosperity. And it is true, Bob, that we have set as a cornerstone of how we do that, building more affordable housing. And part of it is policy. And in this month, we are going to lay out in our update to the comprehensive plan exactly how we can get there neighborhood by neighborhood. But we're also going to continue to work with our partners on the council to best the investments that we've made. I promised $100 million every year. We did that every year in my first term, and we increased it with my most recent budget. But we have to continue to look for ways to build more housing, to take advantage of the excess density that is around our city, and to be more innovative about how we support the creation of affordable housing units. I see that as one of the critical ways to keep our city and our region competitive. I agree with the leaders that you heard before, and I would just say affordability is one of the big challenges to how our region competes with other regions. In continuing to attract talent, you have to have affordable housing. Continuing to attract and keep families, you have to have affordable childcare. And all of it rests on how our metro system is able to grow and support our needs across the region.
I'm gonna hand that down to Tony. Thank you. Tony, I'd be interested in knowing, since, you're now running the Federal City Council, but you were mayor when the whole process started of the recovery, the renaissance, the revitalization of the district. There's been some criticism, mainly from the left, that this is basically leading to gentrification and displacement of people, and that this kind of model of the city that you helped create, has been harmful to the lower income people. What's your thinking about that?
First of all, I want to acknowledge the mayor and Dr. Mason and UDC. I'll have something to say about alumni of UDC when we talk about the Redskins in the stadium, because I think it is apropos to that question. But I would just say this, I wouldn't let we all know the expression, don't let perfect be the enemy of the good. In this case, I would not let the imperative be the enemy of the necessary. So it's necessary to talk about across the region, transportation, housing, education, all these are very, very important, necessary things, and we work day in, day out, where we can, to forge relationships and initiatives to reach those goals. But as I was remarking to the mayor earlier, all these discussions on a regional basis would be a lot easier if DC were recognized as a state and had two senators. That's
An
my
appeal for statehood.
I think
A laudable goal, but in the current political climate, not realistic. Mayor, please. Mayor,
Does this work?
I don't know.
Thank you, Tony. Is this on? Yes. Okay, okay, good. Well, I'm delighted to be here. Okay, I'm delighted to be here. I also, from where I sit, and I want to first comment on the fact that I can sit on this high chair as a grandmother. Major milestone. I hope I don't have to have an emergency med backed off of it. But, I now am the founding director of the Institute of Politics, Policy, and History, and it's relevant to your question, which was launched by the mayor in partnership with President Mason. And one of its missions is to rediscover the history of this historic city and make it accessible. And for those of you who saw the musical Hamilton, there's a song called "In the Room Where It Happened." We are what happened. And that was Madison, Hamilton, and Jefferson. Hamilton needed their vote to get them to assume the Revolutionary War debt of the states. So they agreed to create this capital out of almost nothing. How did they do it? They did it sort of in the biblical fashion, a rib from Virginia at the time and a rib from Maryland. Kind of interesting because we have that shared DNA of the federal interests of our founding fathers, and then we are a part of Maryland and at one time a part of Virginia. And when we work in partnership, we are unstoppable. And when dynamics occur, for example, which sort of segues in also an implicit question, at the 2008 financial crisis, the foreclosure crisis, the whole country was rocked. Where did they turn? They turned to this community. It was Hank Paulson looking into the abyss, Ben Bernanke at the Federal Reserve Bank, Nancy Pelosi, then Bush and Obama. And because we were well hung, we were in a position to support that federal government at that time. That was sort of a beginning, I think, Tony and Mayor, as well as Angela, when we started seeing 1,000 people a month coming into this city. And it wouldn't have worked, even with all of their direction, even though the attention shifted, if we didn't have that beautiful connection, that cooperation. Now, we have challenges now, and I won't go on, but those challenges have everything to do with shifting dynamics across this country. And I think that the mayor and Angela and others are stepping up to those challenges, part of which, and I won't go on, But my goodness, we're shifting away from even having jobs as we move to artificial intelligence. Anytime you eliminate drivers, think of that, drivers for everything, and in your society, those are profound challenges. And that's what the mayor and others have to confront. How do you create jobs? How do you create opportunities when the whole landscape is changing?
Thank you. So, County Executive Officer Brooks, why don't you give us a perspective on these issues in Prince George's? I think you're dealing with many of the same questions about trying to encourage growth while making sure that lower income people are included in that.
So first of all, I just want to say it is just amazing to be here with these leaders, and I happen to look down the road here, and this is an unusual panel. To have 3 of the 4 women, this is just that this is an exciting time to lead in Prince George's County when we have a mayor who is homegrown, and she said she's bullish about the city. Someone said this is the best city, but it's situated next to the best county. So this is an exciting time. And I'll start with something that Mayor Pratt mentioned just a moment ago that I think we often forget, and it's how interconnected we really are. That part of the district, the part of Prince George's was actually broken off to create the District of Columbia. And what we have seen from that over the years is that we are very, very interconnected in terms of talent, in terms of many of the assets that we share. And so this is a really great time for us because I have seen over the last 8 years or so, the county grow in ways that we could have never imagined. Part of that has to do with the, I think, really great leadership of my predecessor, Rashawn Baker, who I think did a great job in terms of restoring the credibility of the county. But it's also that we have made the right investments. We made investments in public safety that have paid off for us very handsomely. Over the last 8 years, we've seen violent crime cut in Prince George's County by over 50%. We've also made great investments, most recently in our school system that I know will pay off for us as well. We're doing innovation in the county now. We're going to build 18 schools in the next 7 years. And what this has been able to do for us is to attract investments to Prince George's County that we have not seen before now. People are finally beginning to realize what a great investment opportunity Prince George's County is in a place that has the most undeveloped land in the state of Maryland. A place, of course, and we have all of the talent there. 70% of our workforce leaves Prince George's County to fuel all of the region every single day. And so it has been my pleasure, really, I'm on a reclamation effort is what I'm calling it, to attract back to Prince George's County all of the talent that leaves us every day and really strengthens the region. But we've also made investments around metro stations. We have 15 metro stations in Prince George's, and so a transit-oriented development strategy has really paid off for us. If you look at Largo, for example, that is exploding at the seams, we're calling it now the downtown Largo area. We'll invite you soon to check us out with a new regional medical facility there. We have a new project, RPAI, that is going to be just sensational. New Carrollton, I think, beyond our wildest dreams, is developing really beautifully with the new WMATA headquarters coming there. We have the Kaiser headquarters, and it's just a really beautiful, we have the most modes of multimodal transportation at that New Carrollton station than any place else in the country. 6 different modes of transportation, 1 transportation hub, so it is just amazing. But we're seeing that light all across the county. And the challenge, you're right, is how do we include more of our residents in the prosperity that is surely coming. And the way that I see that is of course through education, but it's also very deliberately making sure that workforce development is a huge part of what we are doing to make sure that our residents are prepared to take advantage of all the opportunities that are coming, to make sure that housing is affordable and that is a conscious part of our plan. But it is growing in ways that have just been amazing for us. I'll say this last thing before I pass back over the microphone. Both of my grandparents lived in Washington, D.C. So I spent quite a bit of time as a child in Washington, and I remember when the transformation was happening, the renaissance that is occurring now in the district. And I have to tell you that we see much of the excitement and energy that I've seen over the years happening, even in the district, happening as well in Prince George's, and it really is just a wonderful time.
Thank you very much. The mayor, because I want to put her on the spot here. I'm warning you. So I'm going to read you 2 conclusions of this report, this new report, the State of Business report. issued by our host, the DC Chamber of Commerce, because they raise really significant questions about how we're doing in the district on the issue that I know is really important to you. It says, the district has lower shares of businesses owned by women and people of color than most other jurisdictions in the area, while the highest rates of ownership for women are in Prince George's, Fairfax, and Manassas, and the highest rates of minority business ownership are in Falls Church, Prince George's, and Fairfax. I mean, it seems anomalous to me that the district, which is so proud of its support and history for people of color, would be in that situation. And then on page 45, it says, not only is DC a particularly expensive place to live, but it offers the weakest paths to upward economic mobility for children who live in low-income households in the region. So these are serious issues. I mean, what can you do specifically to address those challenges, those problems?
Well, I haven't had an opportunity to read it, so I will definitely have our team look at those numbers. And we take very seriously our commitment to locally owned businesses that hire DC residents. And in fact, one of the major pushes of our administration has been how are we intentional about working with more businesses, locally owned businesses in our city. When I became mayor, for example, we were spending about $350 million per year with our CBEs, with our certified business enterprises. And I challenged our team, much like Councilmember Vincent Orange did, to make sure we weren't just hoping that we would meet our small business and development goals, but we had a path to get there. We have a very involved process of working with every agency at the top of the year where they are outlining their planned procurements. We publish them in a green book, and we give that information to our small and local business community. And so in doing that, and then holding our directors accountable for making sure they're spending as they should, we're now over $700 million, I think, in our CBE program, and in the next 2 years, I think we'll be over $1 billion worth to spend. So that's one way that we can ask and encourage people to start businesses here. Another thing that we have done is focus on technology. It has been, and people will frequently hear me say, we're not your grandfather's Washington. And what I mean by that is we are no longer a one-company government town, that we are growing private sector jobs faster than any sector, than the public sector. And we know that the public sector, the federal government, is only going to see decreases in our region. So we bet big on technology and attracting tech companies, and it is women in tech who are doing the best in our city. We are lauded around the country for being one of the top cities for women entrepreneurs in tech, and we're going to keep making those investments.
Mayor Williams, what's your perspective on that issue? I mean, what could specifically be done in the district to try to improve the level of ownership by minorities and women of small businesses and sort of encourage more economic mobility for the low people at the bottom?
One thing that we're doing at the Federal City Council, I think, is a complement to what the Greater Washington Partnership. I know Jason trying to link all the major universities in the region with what the real needs and jobs are so that there's a better connection and better alignment. And we're trying to get our major employers to step up now and provide more options for our students, both before and during college, and setting up a prototype to do that, to provide that upward mobility that you speak of. When it comes to whether it's inclusionary zoning and housing or requirements for minority business ownership, capital formation, access to opportunities, I think we have to continue to do what we've been doing, which is including it and I applaud the mayor for really emphasizing this, including this on the projects we do, and including it as we do the comprehensive plan and the general expectations of the city. Because if you look at the comprehensive plan is so important because the general economy has vastly more impact than the government itself, right? So if you talked about gentrification earlier, it wasn't 5 or 6 projects that resulted in gentrification. It was general uplift in the economy. There was a lot of good to that, and there were corollary bad aspects of it that have to be addressed. Recognizing that is very, very important.
Mayor Pratt, do you want to talk about the gentrification issue? I mean, the market forces are so strong, encouraging development in sort of borderline neighborhoods in the district. I mean, is there any way to, from your point of view, based on your experience, is there any way to slow that down, or is just the solution to try to help the people who get displaced?
Well, it's such a tough issue. I mean, as someone who was here, when you didn't have that huge influx, you've got to have that tax-paying resident in order to generate the revenues you need to support the city. And so, on one hand, you want to attract that population because that's how your city will grow, that's how it will thrive, that's how you'll be able to fiscally survive and prosper. But at the same time, it almost inevitably, partly because of what I alluded to earlier, such shifts in the economy, that it is creating inevitably a greater economic divide and thereby creating greater challenges that the city is trying to address. I know Prince George is trying to address in terms of affordable housing. But we've got to figure it out. But there's got to be buy-in from everybody to figure it out because it does mean how you spend taxpayer dollars to subsidize these opportunities. And everybody's got to get on board with that. But you've got to have a society always where there are more people who have a vested interest in who we are than feel or otherwise feel isolated. When they start feeling isolated, you have seeds for anarchy. You really do. And so it's a real issue throughout America. And it's a tough one, but it requires buy-in and a notion that, and we see this debate going on at the national level, do you really want to spend tax dollars, to help subsidize these differences that are occurring? Do we want to do that as a collective in our society? And there's some who say yes, and a great many who say no. And it's a real challenge.
I have a slightly different question for County Executive Alsobrooks. Since Sharon Baker was there, and since you've been there running things, I do think the county has really overcome and sort of moved beyond some of the negative perceptions about, and you addressed this a little bit, no whiff of corruption in government, and we had that problem before with Sharon Baker in Prince George's County, and much less concern about public safety than there had been in Prince George's County. But you still have this bizarre phenomenon, which is really a problem for the region, where you've got a lot of undeveloped land near metro stations in Prince George's County, and it's not, that's the place to build. I mean, if you look at it logically in the region, one of the best places to build mixed-use development, including affordable housing, is around those metro stations in Prince George's County, and yet it doesn't seem to be getting as much, it has not gotten as much attention as some other parts of the region. I'm just wondering, do you think that there's a redlining problem regarding commercial investment in Prince George's County? This has certainly been an issue in the past, that the county is basically being redlined either because of its past history or because it's a racial thing. It's majority African American.
So I think that's a great question. And you know what? So the truth of the matter is the reputation was never deserved. I think if we're honest about it, when Rashawn Baker took office, I think he did an amazing thing in terms of changing the perception of the county. But I have to tell you that the people of Prince George's County remain the same. We have always had extremely talented people. We have always had assets in the areas of land and education. So it has been a county whose assets have always been strong. But the reputation of the county is something that we have struggled with for quite some time. We accept that. And we're very happy that it is changing, but I have to tell you that the strength of the county has been much as it is now. It really is just perception. And so when you ask about whether it is a racial issue or what the issue is, I think the elephant in the room is that Prince George's County has been perceived in a way that has not been accurate. And that's the reason that part of what I have enjoyed as county executive is talking about the pride that people in Prince George's County feel about our county. We are very proud of it. And I think there's a lot there to be proud of. It was not just for Sharon Baker, but there was Wayne Curry. We have had very strong leadership in Prince George's County for some time now. And I just have the opportunity really to, in some ways, inherit all of the work that was done before I got there, including the development that is happening around our metro stations, 15 of them. From Suitland to Largo. We can talk about, again, what's happening in New Carrollton. We have at least, out of the 15 metro stations, we have activity happening in close to 7 of those metro stations. And this is really the time to get in because I believe before long, those opportunities will not be there anymore. People are finally beginning to understand the great investment opportunities that exist in Prince George's. But your question is a fair one about whether or not it is an issue around race. And I think that, you know what, in some ways it is fair to say that it is. In any county where the median income is $81,000, where we are in the top 4% in terms of wealthiest counties in the country, where we have the disposable income there, you have to ask yourself, the education levels are there. Why is it that the land is there? Why is it that the development has not happened before now? We do have strong leadership there now, but as I said, I think it'd be unfair to say that it just started 8 years ago. We have always had strong and intelligent people and honorable and people with integrity in Prince George's. We did have one dark period, but you know what? We have moved forward, and this is really the best is yet to come. It is a wonderful thing.
Let's talk about transportation. It occurs to me, and I specifically want to talk about the top transportation issues in the district. I mean, usually when we talk about transportation, we're really talking about regional issues which mostly affect the suburbs. And maybe that's the media's fault, but that's what we focus on. The mayor agrees it's the media's fault. What a surprise. So, but the metro is a regional issue. Of course, the district's involved in that, but a lot of the questions have to do with support from Maryland and Virginia and the federal government now. The American Legion Bridge is a Maryland-Virginia issue. So let's talk about Mayor, what do you see, current mayor that is, what do you see as the top, say, 2 or 3 transportation issues that need to be resolved in the district? And I'm particularly interested in congestion pricing and dedicated bus lanes.
I still think that the health of our metro system is our top issue. I think that we work really hard and long together to have a stable funding solution. Not perfect, but it is advancing us, and it takes care of getting us to a state of good repair in 10 years. But it does nothing for how we grow. So I think that we have to stay focused on making sure that we're funding Metro. We have great governance. Again, 6 senators in our region would help us with that issue in a big way. We also agree that bus is a part of the solution, and we will. We have some big projects to support that. I think it's important that the business community and our partners on the council get on the same page about how we invest in the bus. In my last budget, for example, I introduced a K Street Transitway. It was mentioned that you can only go 4 miles an hour on K Street. Where we have a proposal to transform those service lanes to have dedicated bus in safe lanes for bicycles, cars, parking, and everything. So we need to advance on big projects like that. I am so happy to hear so many people interested in dedicated bus lanes because we have one coming to a street near you. You've heard of it. It's called 16th Street. And that will be our big effort in dedicated bus. And it will have a regional effect. That's one of the primary routes from Montgomery County into the district. And I have impressed upon my team how important it is for us to get that right because we do need our communities to buy into it so that we can expand it to other parts of the city. Now, you raised the question about congestion pricing, and I have to tell you, I want my team to be thinking broadly and have every tool on the table for us to consider. Because it is, I also think, in addition to affordability, gridlock can tank our competitiveness when we look at other regions. And being able to move people around a region is hugely important. Now, having said that, not everybody can drive. We're up against a big industry in the auto industry that keeps producing these fantastic cars that you can do everything in those big, beautiful cars. So why would you want to leave your big, beautiful car at home and get on the bus with your fellow neighbors? So we have to make sure that our public transit is convenient, it's affordable, and it's reliable. And that's one reason why we've kind of focused on our own system. Apart from our huge investment in Metro, we are hugely investing in our DC circulator. I'm going to continue to push to make the DC circulator free because it hits on a key aspect of affordability and convenience. And people will choose the bus when it is affordable, it's convenient, and it's reliable. So we're going to keep pushing on that.
Mayor Williams, what's your view as to the principal transportation priorities for the district?
For me personally, I'd like to see us finish up on, in terms of the metro, a couple of things. One is, I would totally agree that the bus system, for all the things you've heard from the mayor, from Jason, is so important. Because all the studies show there's a huge correlation between lack of job opportunity and lack of transportation. So getting more of our people access to transportation is hugely important. The other thing that's, we constantly harp about is we don't want to wake up 6 years from now and say, where did all the Metro Now money go? So we've been beating this drum about accountability in Metro, the right kind of board. I applaud the mayor for bringing forward someone with professional experience on the boards. That's what we were looking for. We need more of that. Strong internal
He's
control.
referring to the mayor's nominee to replace Mr. Price on the Metro.
Yeah, strong internal. I feel like someone at a party talking about the exits and logistics. You want to talk about bigger things, but I think that accountability is important. Can I say something else? When you talk about small businesses and the lack of minority women-owned businesses in DC, one thing that we really have to consider is that if we're talking about the private economy and a lot of that outside the reach of government, even with the best intentions, why are smaller businesses going to Montgomery, most particularly Fairfax County? I would argue that a lot of what we have to look at is regulation, the cost of regulation, the application of regulation. Where it takes 18 years to get projects going, the neighborhoods are in favor of the project, everybody's on board with the project, and someone from Hawaii or Alaska or someone with a different theory is breaking up this project. All of these projects are small businesses in these projects. If you're a small business looking to do business, you're going to look at where the best opportunities are, and if there's onerous regulation, it's a problem. I'm not trying to sound like a right-wing Republican, but we have to look at the cost of regulation and its relationship to formation of small women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses.
You sound like a moderate, business-friendly Democrat. Mayor Pratt, do you have views on the transportation priorities for the district?
Well, the Mayor Bowles is dealing with it each and every day, and I like her vision and I like her approach, so that's where I am.
I want to talk about Prince George's County, Executive also Brooks. The biggest question there right now has to do with the proposal by Governor Hogan to add express toll lanes to the Beltway, and a good chunk of which is in Prince George's County. And also he would like to add them, although there's a federal problem here, to the Baltimore-Washington Parkway. So what's your view on that? I don't think I've heard a really clear-cut expression of support or opposition from you on that particular vital issue.
Well, I can tell you the one thing I do agree with is that the congestion that we have seen on the beltways and other areas, I think disproportionately impacts Prince George's County. We have our residents who are stuck on these highways for 2 hours at a time, and something has to be done to alleviate that gridlock. So I can tell you that I do agree there. Now, how that is accomplished, I think there is widespread opposition, especially to expanding the parkway. I think that there has also been a lot of concern about the toll roads on the Beltway. But the thing that we do know is that we have to come together to find a solution so that our residents are spending time at home, doing homework with their children and sitting at the table having dinner and not spending hours and hours commuting back and forth. I think the solution for it is one that is a collaborative solution. And I heard that word used quite a bit in the panel before us, and I think that really is going to be the solution, is that we're going to have to figure out transportation as a regional issue. I think using the buses, we've heard about the bus routes. We've been doing a lot of work there at Prince George's using Metro. So I think it is really going to require that we come together as a region to decide what the system looks like. The Purple Line is going to be really helpful to us. We laid the first tracks on that just a few weeks ago, and we're looking forward to it. But if you ask me what my first position is, it is that we must do something to alleviate the gridlock and congestion that too many of our residents suffer every day. And I'm looking forward to doing that. I'm still lucky to have Mayor Bowser. Can I just say that publicly? We have just, I couldn't ask for a better partner. It's been such a joy. And a lot of these issues we'll just solve together.
You have something to add, Mayor Bowser?
And I would like to echo that with the county executive. We've been working together since she was the state's attorney and I was a ward council member on making our community safer. And I don't live in Maryland, but we don't like more lanes. And because a lot of those more lanes end up dumping cars in the district. And for us to be able to solve our congestion issues, it is important that we are working collaboratively on moving cars. And we know that we can move the most cars by getting people safe and reliable metro and great bus access.
Wait, excuse me, are you saying you don't want to add lanes in the district, or you don't want Maryland to add the lanes?
I don't want, where do a lot of those cars come in Maryland to the district? And I think it's important that as a region, and I think COG can play a role in this as we look at our plans and look at how we're moving cars, that we are having that type of discussion. Adding more lanes and adding more cars does not address gridlock.
Okay, so I promised you questions about the Redskins Stadium, and it's I think it's not a lot of enthusiasm. So I'm going to start with the mayor. Mayor, you've expressed a strong interest in having the team return to Washington, but your chief of staff, who's sitting right over there, Mr. Falasiccio, told me not too long ago that you hadn't had any comments, any discussions with the team since last fall, or even longer. So it's what's going on with that?
How about those Mystics? Real clear about something. We believe that we are the sports capital of this region. And we believe all of our teams should be playing within our boundary. And we will, we're not going to chase them down. And we like them to be winners when they come. But what's important, and Mayor Williams got this exactly right when he fought so hard for the Washington Nationals, that world-class cities invest in the arts and sports and our culture. They're things that you have. And you have world-class sports teams. And we have done our part to build an infrastructure, not just for professional sports, but also for our school children. You go around the district now and you see top flight sporting facilities for our young people. And we want to continue to make those types of investments in them as well, which is hugely important. And it's not just for the NFL. You see that we have also built an incredible soccer stadium that is going to the world's biggest game has a home right in the District of Columbia. So that's what's hugely important for us. We don't feel like in the district that we're in a position where we have to beg for this type of development. We have a great site. We think the best site in the region. And when the time is right, we are going to make sure that that site is activated. Now, it can be activated with a professional NFL stadium plus a lot of additional uses: housing, commercial, hotel, and very importantly, park space that will help us activate the Anacostia River that is on its edge. So we are planning the next phase for RFK with or without a stadium. We wanted to have a stadium, but we are going to do what's best for our residents, our neighborhoods, and our general economy.
Have you had any recent discussions with the team about this?
Any discussions I have, I will let you know at the appropriate time.
I was going to tell you a story. I got in Uber enough, I forget which one, and I'm driving the other day. Nice African-American woman, young woman, graduate of UDC. She's getting her another degree, she told me, and she's driving while she's paying some expenses. And she has sports radio on, one of those shows where they're deep into the metrics of the teams and the players. And hoping she doesn't notice me. I'm sure enough she did notice me, and she starts hammering me about gentrification, the city was spending money on elites and on these big projects and not helping the people. We need more transportation for the people. We need more programs, more this and that. And then she kind of drifts off, and I said, well, you're a sports fan? She says, yeah, I'm a sports fan. And I said, well, what do you think about the whole thing with the Redskins? She says, the city needs to get off its you-know-what and build a stadium for the Redskins. What do you think of that? So I think there's a lot of latent support in the city for the city getting behind, even with their current condition, getting behind.
I'm a season ticket holder, just for the record, and I'm going on Sunday. Me and 90% of the fans will be wearing Patriots colors. But I have a specific question for you. I mean, you played an integral role in getting the Nats Park built, and we've seen now finally a lot of the development is really pouring in there, and more residents and more commercial activity, and it's really, been a renaissance for that neighborhood. Just the way the what's it called now, Capital One Arena, it did for 7th Street, Chinatown. Do you think that a football stadium? I mean, they play 80 times a year at Nats Park. They only play 8 times a year, unless you count preseason games at a football stadium. Do you think that you'd get the same benefit from having a football stadium that you did with the baseball stadium? Aren't they two really different phenomena?
Federal City Council, we support the mayor. We're agnostic on how the site ought to be used. That's the Federal City Council's position. My own view, and you're just asking me personally, I think there's some models of how you can do successful football stadiums where you involve more commercial activity, where you can involve more uses. Prominent example, again, notwithstanding the condition of the team, Kirk Cousins, are the Vikings and the stadium they built in Twin Cities. I think is an example of what you could do to make it more commercially viable. But that's just my personal opinion.
Mayor Pratt, you played a big role in the original decision to not build the stadium, the current stadium, in the district. What advice would you give to Mayor Bowser about pursuing these negotiations? And I realize that she's dealing with a very different interlocutor now than Jack Kent Cooke.
Well, you know, I went into deep and intense therapy to try to forget my experience.
Listen to Mayor Bowser.
I will have to say that on my watch, I got Anne McLaughlin Karolimus, who was then chair of the Federal City Council, to go and reach out to Abe Poland and bring what was the ultimate urban sport into the city, basketball. My father was a season ticket holder for the Redskins, so it was very difficult, that whole dynamic. Jack Kent Cooke did not stay because, you know, the Department of Interior had control of the RFK Stadium.
And
And
they
it would
still
have
do.
taken a lot of variations. So he did not want to kiss the ring of all those congressmen. He just wanted to pat the rear of the mayor. And as you may recall, that was a part of his obituary. He was really quite an experience.
He would not have survived the current.
He would not have made it today. But, you know, there's a lot of love for the Redskins. There's no question about that. There's a lot of energy and enthusiasm. And before I met him, I was very enthusiastic about them as well. But I think we do have a great thing with our basketball team, as our mayor reminded us, both of our basketball teams, the Nationals. And it would be terrific to have them back in Washington, D.C. It would be nice if they changed their name. So I look to the mayor to figure that one out. I wouldn't go by my experience.
All right, and now, County Executive also puts, who actually has the current stadium. So are you eager to keep them in Prince George's County? And are we gonna, I realize that you and Mayor Bowser have a wonderful, mutually supportive, collaborative, and respectful relationship, but might you end up in a bit of a rivalry here to try to keep the team?
Well, you know, so I have to say that I am too a long-suffering Redskins fan. Emphasis on long-suffering. It's so funny to hear Mayor Pratt talk about her experience with Jack Kent Cooke, because what I think about it, she spoke about it, was the 5th county executive for Prince George's County, Wayne K. Curry. This was his favorite story. It was impossible to have a discussion with Wayne without him talking about it. I mean, the story changed every time I heard it. It became more and more fantastic. But he loved to tell me, he took me to the stadium and said, "Let me tell you how I kicked Jack Kent Cooke's ass." He loved it. It's a favorite story. And he said his name is up in the, there's a ring of fame or something around the stadium. And he would make sure that his box is positioned so we could look and see his name there. And so anyway, he loved the story. The team has really been an asset to the county. We have been proud to host them in Prince George's. And we would love to have them stay in Prince George's County. And you know what, I think I'd echo a lot of the same things that Mayor Bowser said. Everyone understands that to develop a vibrant community does require entertainment, sports, the arts. These are things that attract people to a county, will retain our residents. And so it's important to us to be able to grow. We don't have the baseball team and such, but we've been really proud to have the Redskins there and to also have the opportunity to build out sports in our county. There's currently a real focus on youth sports development in the county, a beautiful development project coming up in Bowie, South Lakes, where we're going to be able to host tournaments from around the country. But we would love to have the Redskins. I have to tell you that we will not do so in a way that disrespects our residents or does not benefit our community. And so there will be lots of public input and engagement about whatever we decide with respect to the Redskins. The governor is also a long-suffering Redskins fan, and so he's made it clear to me that we are interested in, as a state, in having the Redskins stay in the state of Maryland, and we will work together to do what we believe is in the best interest of our state and the county.
Let me ask a follow-up on that. I go to FedEx Field, for every game. What could you do to try to get more, to leverage the presence of that stadium, to get more development out there, or more? There's the Jericho City of Praise is growing rapidly, but there isn't a whole lot else around there. There's certainly nothing that actually connects in with the stadium to sort of get a mutual synergistic kind of benefit.
So we envision much more. Similar again to what the mayor said. it would require that stadium to become a destination, to build in a location where we could have not just the stadium, but have the opportunity to shop and dine and to have other experiences, hotels and other things. And so it would require that we would re-envision the way the stadium exists today, and to have it to be much more of a destination that didn't just end on Sunday. As it is now, we have that stadium, but nothing else happens there during the week. And so we would envision having an opportunity to build something that our residents could enjoy all week long, even when the games are not happening.
Okay, thank you very much. So, thank you very much for these wonderful comments and for talking about these important issues, from affordable housing to the NFL professional team. Thanks a lot.